And I just want to do a shout out. If you watched yesterday's video with Bob Wicks, he had a really cool t-shirt on that I loved. And I actually, Terry had dropped off one to myself. I think you're going to be seeing these shirts around Beeville, but it basically is Baldwinsville, a place where kindness comes full circle. And Mayor, I think you could agree with that statement, right?
Absolutely. I think this is a time that's really showing that people are helping. We're not even hearing half of the things that are being done for people, because they're not asking for thanks. They're just doing it because they know somebody needs a hand. We have shared in it. We've had people run errands for us. Hey, we're going to Tops and Aldi's. Do you need anything? We're going to Wegmans. Can I pick up something for you? We're sharing puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. We've had somebody drops off a couple here. Somebody else stops and picks up a couple off the porch. It's just little things like that help you get through the days, that make you remember that there are people that are thinking about you, and that certainly helps.
Yep. Terry Farragon, she's one of the people that's out there. You may not see her name or hear her name because she's not promoting it, but she's definitely seeing this, and that's what inspired her to create this logo. So again, the creativity in Baldwinsville and the thoughtfulness of Beeville is just amazing. So how was your week? What's been going on? Any new updates?
Well, lots of little things going on. We had a village board meeting, a virtual village board meeting Thursday night. We used Zoom. All of our board members, our attorney, our engineer, our police chief, codes. The screen was full of mugs, and because my wife is kind of savvy on all this stuff, she was able to get us on live so that people could watch it as it was happening. Because we can't allow people to come into the boardroom if we had a meeting there. Most of us don't want to be in the boardroom with each other at this time. So we got the business of the village done, excuse me, live, so that people could see that we are running the government. It was kind of somber. I think people realized that this was odd to be doing it this way, but I think they were also excited that we could get it done, and that the public could see what was going on. It was not without flaws. Maybe I didn't even notice a couple of them, but we struggled a little bit. Some of the people were going in and out. There were some feedback issues, and we were telling people maybe to shut their audio off when they weren't talking. Mm-hmm. But overall, for the first time, I was just thrilled to death that we were able to do it that way. So that's a big notch in our belt. And again, to go along with Pack B, I just think that people in the village should realize that we have a lot of people working to keep the information coming out. What you're doing with Chief and Bob Wicks, and I know you've had Mary Francis from Van Buren, you had Greg, you've had the post office, or the post office, library, the ambulance corps. It's so nice that people have a chance to know that these people are still doing their work, and that the village is taken care of. Good news we got. I saw on Facebook, Officer Rosie went home. She's finished up her chemo treatment up at Golisano. For those people who don't know, Rosie's a 3 or 4 year old little girl who's been really putting on a brave fight with cancer, and has been adopted by our police department. She's an official police officer on patrol at Golisano, and she's up there and had her last round of chemo for a little while anyway, so she's able to go home. That's a big plus for a brave little girl that we're excited to be a part of her life, and hats off to the police department for getting involved with that. Speaking on the Zoom meeting we had the other night, we've also done that now 2 weeks in a row with all the village mayors. We had a meeting again yesterday. We were able to talk about what's going on in their community that might help impact what we are doing in our community. Everybody's talking about doing brush pickup, that type of thing. And they're all just waiting like everybody else. We also met Friday with Ryan McMahon, County Executive, through Zoom. We'll meet with him again Friday. So it keeps us linked, and we can ask questions that maybe rather than call him and interrupt a busy day for him, because if you watch at 3 o'clock every day, the man is busy. I can't believe he continues to stand up there every day and read those numbers and give us information. And he gives us the best information because it's local. It's about
Right.
us, our streets, our community. When you hear the governor talk, and 98% of what he's talking about is New York City. The president talks, and it's not to do with, our streets in Baldwinsville for sure. So when Ryan McMahon talks, he's talking about our communities, and I find his information very good, and it keeps us up to date. The last thing I heard yesterday was through leadership of the county and the neighboring counties, we've appealed to the governor to be treated a little differently than, say, New York City area and
Good.
Chester County and those kind of areas, so that it looks like one-day elective surgeries may be returning to our hospitals, which would be a huge economic boost for them. They've laid off a lot of nurses and stuff that can't work in the emergency room. That's not their specialty.
Right.
So this would bring back some money back into the hospitals and keep them from in real disastrous situations later in the year.
That's actually nice to hear, because I think one of the biggest complaints I hear in the community is we're being treated like New York City. We're a little bit different. I mean, obviously, I don't want our area to turn, nor does anybody else, into New York City. But we do have a little bit different. We're not quite as crowded or as packed. So that was the first that I've heard of it. So thanks for sharing that information.
Well, and I don't know exactly when it's going to start, but I did hear one of the hospital leaders was quite excited because I think it's the guy who's in charge of St. Joe's was saying that there's a lot of elective surgery that isn't just, well, you've got a bad knee and we'll replace it, or we'll go in and do, fix up the meniscus or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have health conditions that aren't emergencies, but the longer you wait, the bigger the issue could be. So the head of St. Joe's was saying, if we can get those, what would be considered elective in some people's minds, but if we can get some of them taken care of, would be very beneficial to those involved. So that's one step. I know that I'm one that's very happy to hear that they're talking about caution. Let's try to do some things a little more normal, but let's don't just open the floodgates and end up with a worse situation than we have. And so I'm hoping that people can stay patient. One of the things they reversed direction on too at the state level was marinas, and I guess some more freedom on golf courses. Nobody can be working other than a couple security people, no golf carts, but at least people can get out. One person playing alone, can't play in foursomes and that type of stuff, but at least somebody can go out and heck around a little bit and hit some golf balls and feel like they're doing something other than sitting home watching television. The marinas are helpful for us because it kind of opens the gates for us to put our canoe kayak launches out.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll probably be doing that soon. And talking with Steve D'Arcangelo, he said there's probably no activity around that's as socially distanced by nature than kayaks. You don't want anybody within 6 feet of you ever when you're in a kayak.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who do it all by themselves. So they can paddle upriver, they can paddle down towards Onondaga Lake, and to address a little bit of what Mike Leffencheck mentioned the other day, and with the mental health stuff, people getting cabin fever, people getting frustrated with their loved ones, getting out and doing stuff like that does a nice thing for your brain, for your psyche. And to remind people, if you are having any anxiety, whether you're scared to death about this virus, whether it's the people in the house with you are driving you nuts, you're worried about financial security and you can't sleep, call 211. They'll connect you to the right agency to have somebody talk to you and give you some helpful hints on ways to deal with what issues you're facing. And I'm guessing as we go along, that'll be even a little bit worse as people spend more and more time together. That, you know, usually somebody worked 8 hours a day, sleep 7 hours a day. That doesn't leave as much time. Now all of a sudden you're not sleeping 8 hours because you're agitated and you're together all the rest of the time. So 211 is a great avenue. Again, Earth Day today. Not going to be able to be some of the Earth Day cleanups this weekend like people normally would do because of the social distancing, but we are actually, advocating so much for people to get out and walk safely. You see a piece of paper, if you see a bottle or a can, pick it up and put it in one of our trash receptacles, which should be out before the end of the week.
Yeah.
Great. Go ahead.
I'm just, me and social media. I think it would be nice if this weekend people were out walking and they picked up stuff, just maybe taking a selfie or something and saying, hey, Earth Day. So it's another way to kind of celebrate it, put out there that people are doing it. So, anybody that's watching this video between us, it's just an idea. A lot of times we're spending time on social media, but it reminds everybody why there's an Earth Day. And the purpose of Earth Day is if they could kind of promote it that way, where it's just like a one person doing something. But if you're sharing it on social media, it really does bond you that way. So yeah. Just my 2 cents, Mayor, but.
Well, we used to, with Earth Day, a lot of times we would park a truck like at Village Hall so people could bring their stuff. We aren't doing the trucks, like the, it's not a rent a truck because we don't charge, but we do have a service where we drop off a big truck at somebody's house for overnight, and they can throw, if they've cut down some trees or something, they can fill up the back of the truck with brush, and then we pick it up the next day. We're not doing that at current time, because that necessitates 2 people being in a pickup truck afterwards.
Right.
The guy, whoever drives the dump truck, then has to get picked up, and we don't want 2 people in a truck together. We're trying to stay away from that. So that's been suspended, at least for the time being. Mm-hmm. Greg mentioned to me that there's been an uptick in permits. I guess with them looking down the road, there's 5 or 6 days ahead of us that are going to be in the 50s.
Nice.
People finding small things they want to do, sheds, decks, fences, and so people have been questioning him on getting permits. He said he had several people question him about bottle returns. He did say that McBride Bottle Return, which is in the Smoky Hollow Plaza, is open from 10 to 4. They're closed on Wednesdays and Sundays, but they are open for bottle returns. Okay. I'm not sure how they're working it, whether they're taking them at the door, keeping you outside, but they are open. Good news also yesterday, I did receive the contract. Okay, here we go. The contract for the Main Street project.
Oh, good.
So
good.
The 7 businesses will be getting contacted shortly, I'm sure. Excuse me for a second while I take a little sip of water.
Sure.
So there was some concern whether, the money that had been put aside, the $1.5 million that was put aside for the 5 villages, the county might need that money for other things, but apparently that's not the case. So hopefully when things ease up a little bit more, we'll start seeing painters out painting facades on buildings, and maybe some windows getting changed. And I know your business is one of the ones in the project.
Yeah. I was going to I had a conversation with Steve D'Arcangelo about it, and he felt at that time that it probably was, going to continue. So he just said, stay on top of it. So I just sent out bids to some contractors, things like that. And I thought I'll just keep moving. And if they need the money for something else, myself, and I'm sure the other business owners feel the same way, that if they need the money for something else, then put the money towards that. But I'll just keep doing what the village asked me to do, to try and hit guidelines and timelines and stuff. So, but it's nice to know. I think part of the reason that maybe, he thought that it was still going to go on is because to show the community that we're still growing, we're still developing, businesses are still there, and to give those contractors business as well, to put towards the community for beautification. So
these poor contractors have been sitting there doing nothing. All of a sudden they're going to be getting
Oh yeah.
150 phone calls. Can you do this work? And then it's going to be hard to find contractors. So I did add some contact. Let's see. What else do we have? As far as the opening up of business and stuff in the community, and I know there's two sides. There's people that are protesting, open up our communities and let us go back to work, and other people who are hunkering down with masks on and saying, don't let us die. We're scared. Yeah. Probably going to be somewhere in the middle is what's going to happen. All I know is when the governor comes on television and says he's sort of has a positive note. We had less than 500 deaths in the state yesterday, type thing. That's not really comforting to me. It's nice that it wasn't 700, but as Ryan McMahon said in the county, these are our neighbors. These are all people that somebody knew. They're somebody's relative. You can say this is not that big a deal, but I'll tell you what, lose one of your loved ones when you weren't able to share with them their final moments and that type of stuff, pretty tough on you. Yeah. And it's not something you'll ever forget, I'm sure. So I just ask people to think a little bit, that to run out in the streets and celebrate and say, wow, they've lifted some restrictions. I don't know. I did see one of those memes or whatever on Facebook the other day that said, if they open up the country May 1st, I may hang inside till June 1st and see how the rest of you make out.
Well, and I think you're right. I think that there's people in this extreme, and it's going to be that middle ground. I'm just hoping that then when they do decide to open it, Mayor, that you have that choice. I'll use the schools as an example. Somebody had said if they open the schools, maybe it's optional if you want to send your child back to school. Because I know there's some people that say, I absolutely do not. I have an elderly parent that lives with me. And then other people is like, no, my kids are fine. They can go. So I don't know how it's going to come down the pipeline, but having a choice to me is always a good thing,
I don't think I have a whole ton more. I mean, we've talked about most of the stuff. All of our offices are operating except for the courts. So if you need anything, you can call, codes, police, DPW, Village Hall. Now, I did hit a like yesterday. My wife always warns me about hitting likes on Facebook, but I did get a like about a group that's supporting our seniors in high school. Is that's something that you're familiar with? Maybe we should get that out to people now?
Sure. So it's an honor our seniors in Baldwinsville. Around the country, different school districts were doing it. My old school, where I actually went to school, my kids used to go to school back in Elizabeth Township in Pennsylvania. They had included me in the group. And I mentioned to one of the residents, Casey Killian, who's always looking for a way to promote and honor the kids. And she's really saddened that her senior, he plays a lot of varsity sports, and she was looking for a way, whether it was with signs in the yard or other things that we've seen. And so I mentioned this idea to her. So there's a Facebook page now that is the Baldwinsville B Seniors. It's Honor Our Senior Students. And we're asking parents of seniors to basically brag about your child. What is it about your child that's so amazing that you normally would have posted at a graduation party, their senior yearbook. Hopefully we get back to normal and all those things happen, but if they don't, how can we show the kids the support that they normally feel in the community at the end of their school year? So what we did was we created this page, and we'll use my son for example, Jordan Hoffman, and I put a couple pictures and things that he's accomplished. And a woman in the community whose name's Laura adopted my son. So now Jordan's going to get a card, encouragement letter, maybe a small gift in the mail, just something from this person showing him that she recognizes all that he's losing in his senior year, recognizing the fact that she wants to lift him up to carry him to the next level. Casey's son is Dylan Killian, and I know you have a grandchild that's graduating. So the same thing. So, it's nice that they're still going to get cards and stuff from their family, encouragement from their families, but this is somebody else in the community that knows these kids that says, hey, I'm recognizing you. I'm going to adopt you and give you this encouragement. We just thought it was a nice way to have a little celebration for that child for things that they may be missing come May, June, and July. So thank you for bringing that up. We're kind of excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's terrific. Again, it goes right back to the reason for people calling 211, and some of the kids are, our granddaughters, it was very excited about finishing her senior year. I mean, she was really looking forward to the senior ball, walking across the stage to get her diploma, graduation party. Relatives were coming in from out of town, cousins and stuff. She doesn't know if any of that will take place, and it's kind of sad. I mean, she's not a whiner type, but I bet it's got her down. I mean, she's a pretty upbeat young lady, and we're really proud of her. But I'll bet her tail's down a little bit, dragging. So that would be a nice lift to hear from somebody that you don't even know recognizes what you're going through.
And that's what we thought. So we just started it yesterday. It doesn't have a whole lot of momentum, but I'm going to reach out to even the businesses today. The Chamber of Commerce in Beeville is having a virtual coffee, and kind of mention it to them that even if a business wants to adopt, a student, maybe if you have a client and the client has a senior that's graduating, it's just nice. It's just, it's what can we do while we're isolated to show these seniors that people do know what they're going through. We can't say exactly because it didn't happen to us, right? I had all that great stuff when I graduated, but, and same with as your granddaughter. My son doesn't whine a whole lot about it, but I can tell there's there's a little missing skip in his step, if that makes sense, being quarantined. So thank you for bringing that up so I could kind of talk about it a little bit.
Well, it sounds like Beeville being Beeville, people wanting to make things nice in our community. So, you and I are on the same page with that as far as appreciating the way this community looks out for each other. And again, if there's things that people need, if there's masks, gloves, things like that for the ambulance corps, we ask people to reach out, which we could see what we can do to try to help. It's not easy. People are making all kinds of masks. And we've seen several in our house that have been sent to, that we bought in most cases. So, the people are trying to do something to help. So this is a great idea, and thanks for your role in it. And I will make sure that I publicize it as much as I can on my Facebook links and get the word out. And hopefully all of our seniors will have somebody send them an extra card or something that they wouldn't really know why they got it. They know who the person is in a lot of cases, but
no, I think it goes back to talking about before we went live about Pac B having the memory shows and playing things that happen. Even if it's just a matter of 15 years from now when the seniors talk about their senior year, just something to bring a smile to their face. Even years down the road, like my community supported me. We talked about people moving away and coming back because it's a great place to raise their kids. I mean, that's just another example, right? Who wouldn't want to raise their children in a place that the community comes together and supports children that, that don't live in their household. So it's just, I brag about Bevo all the time, that, but I love it here. I think it's great.
I'm glad that I have company. And I know my wife is not a native of Beeville, but you would not know it. I mean, she's been here since like 73, I think, raised the kids. They all went through the school system. And, this is, if she's a Bevillian, I mean, in her mind. And, my sisters both live, I can walk to both my sisters' houses, and we're still that close in proximity. And it is a great place. And I hope that what we're doing helps people a little bit, just keeps them connected. I do hear comments about not just, when I'm on, when they talk about the ham that I am, but that they enjoy seeing the police chief. I think it's comforting.
Yeah.
That he's live. He's taking time out of his day talk to the people in the village and tell them what's going on. So this is great, and hats off to you and everybody else that does the work behind the scenes to keep this community what it is.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, thank you. I mean, that being said, once again, thank you for your time and sharing the thoughts and your love of the village, because I think everybody has their role. Like you mentioned, the police chief and feeling safe and secure. I told you this before, having you come on and talk about the community, just you're just a long-standing person in the community. You talked about the gentleman who did the history report, and I apologize, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Oh, right. Patchett.
Yeah, Ron Patchett. That's who you are to me. When I think of Baldwinsville, I think of Dick Clarke. I think of the Saraceni family. There's just there's names. So, and that your name is one of those names to me. So I appreciate you being here. You guys enjoy your week, and I say guys because I know your wife's back there monitoring everything and keeping it going.
She's trying to make sure I don't say anything too crazy.
Gotta love it.
She didn't dress me, however. I dressed myself.
You dressed yourself. I'll be sure to screenshot that and send it to the police chief to put with his Red Sox stuff.
You think he'd be interested?
Thanks,
Thanks, Shelly.
All right, guys. Thank you.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye.